The incident. Ambassador Lyra Nash stood before the Galactic Council's immense viewing screen, her face betraying no emotion as the recording played for the 13th time. The Kryvax warships descended upon New Haven colony like metallic thunderclouds, their plasma cannons illuminating the peaceful settlement in horrible purples and reds. The colony's modest defensive shields, maintained mostly for protection against solar radiation, shattered like glass. We demanded their submission, First Commander Vexthor of the Kryvax Dominion announced to the Council, his scaled face displaying what passed for pride among his species. The humans have repeatedly refused to join our enlightened rule. New Haven was chosen as an example. Nash's fingers tightened almost imperceptibly on the podium. The recording continued, showing the systematic destruction of the colony's infrastructure. Then came the moment that had changed everything. The elementary school. 342 children, aged between 6 and 12 Earth Standard years, had been inside when the Kryvax ships targeted it. The young must learn early that resistance to the Dominion brings consequences. Vexthor continued, seemingly oblivious to the growing tension in the chamber. Humans have maintained their isolation for too long, hiding behind their single-system policy. The galaxy requires unity under strong leadership. Nash finally spoke, her voice carrying clearly across the chamber. You broke the Childhood Preservation Accord of 2789. Vexthor's secondary breathing slits flared in amusement. An agreement we never signed. The Dominion recognizes no limitations on its divine right to rule. The accord wasn't for you, Nash replied, pressing a small device on her wrist. Throughout the chamber, new holographic displays sprang to life, showing images that made several council members gasp. Massive orbital structures around Earth, hidden beneath sophisticated cloaking fields. Vast underwater facilities on Titan, shipyards stretching for kilometers beneath the ice. Beneath the surfaces of Mars and Venus, entire military-industrial complexes hummed with activity. Humanity's single-system policy was never about isolation, Nash continued. It was about concentration, focus, preparation. For centuries, we've maintained the facade of a species content with its cradle, letting the galaxy believe we were simply cautious or primitive. The images shifted, revealing ships unlike anything the Council had seen before. Where Kryvax vessels were angular and brutally efficient, these human warships seemed to drink in light itself, their surfaces rippling with strange geometries that hurt the eye to look at directly. We learned from our own bloody history that power must be tempered by wisdom, strength by restraint. We built not because we wanted to use our weapons, but because we understood that there would always be those who mistake peace for weakness. We stayed in Sol not because we couldn't leave, but because we chose to perfect our capabilities before venturing out. Nash's next words fell like stones in water. The Kryvax Dominion has existed for 900 years. Humanity has spent the last 500 preparing for something exactly like this. You didn't find a primitive species cowering in its cradle. You found a sleeping giant that had devoted centuries to ensuring that, when violence became necessary, it would be both swift and decisive. New displays showed human ships emerging from hidden docks throughout the Sol system. Not hundreds, not thousands, but tens of thousands. Each one incorporated 5 centuries of concentrated human innovation, engineering, and determination. This is not a declaration of war, Nash said, her voice now barely above a whisper. This is a statement of consequences. You murdered our children while they were learning about the stars. We will teach you why every spacefaring race before you knew to give Earth a wide berth. The council chamber had grown so quiet that the soft chime of Nash's communicator seemed deafening. She glanced at it briefly, then looked back at Vexthor. The First Fleet has already departed Sol. Unlike your forces at New Haven, they won't be targeting children. They're coming for your military installations, your shipyards, and your command centers. You chose to make an example of one human colony. Humanity will make an example of your entire empire. She turned to leave, then paused. A final note. We shut down the Kryvax quantum communications network. Your forces won't be able to coordinate a response. We've had the capability to do this for 2 centuries, but saw no reason to reveal it. Consider this the first lesson in why humanity chose patience over expansion. As Nash walked out of the council chamber, the displays showed human warships dropping out of hyperspace near every major Kryvax military installation simultaneously. The giant had not only awakened, it had woken up prepared. Silent thunder. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Elena Santos watched as centuries of preparation transformed into action. The underwater facility designation, Deep Cradle, had been her home for the past 15 years, though few beyond Earth's unified military command even knew it existed. Now, as she stood in the facility's central command hub, holographic displays showed similar installations activating worldwide. Status report on the Lazarus Protocol, she commanded, her voice steady despite the historic nature of the moment. Commander James Chen's fingers danced across his console, all systems responding exactly as designed. Admiral, the quantum entanglement network is maintaining 100% efficiency. All facilities are synchronized and reporting ready status. Santos nodded, allowing herself a moment to appreciate the scale of what humanity had achieved, while the public saw occasional tests of experimental ships in orbit. The true scope of Earth's military capability had remained hidden in facilities like Deep Cradle, scattered across Earth's oceans, buried under mountains, and concealed in dimensional pockets that humanity had officially failed to stabilize. These installations represented the pinnacle of human innovation driven by the memory of their own violent history. Begin Phase 2 deployment, Santos ordered. Throughout the facility, lights dimmed as power redirected to the dimensional stabilizers. The chamber's main viewer activated, showing the ocean floor outside beginning to ripple like disturbed mercury. From depths that satellites couldn't penetrate and sensors couldn't map, humanity's true fleet began to emerge. The ships didn't break the surface. They phased through it, transitioning from their dimensional sanctuary into normal space through apertures that defied conventional physics. Each vessel represented decades of refinement, incorporating technologies that humanity had deliberately kept hidden from galactic society. First wave transition complete, Chen reported. The Phantom Fleet is fully materialized and holding position at designated coordinates. Energy signatures are masked, and metamaterial cloaking is functioning within expected parameters. Santos activated a secure channel to the other command facilities. Similar reports flooded in from installations across the globe. The Avalon Array beneath the Himalayas had deployed its contingent of ships equipped with reality warping drives. The Prometheus Vault under the Sahara had released vessels carrying weapons that could unmake matter at a quantum level. From the Arctic's Hyperborea complex came ships with shields derived from studying the membrane between dimensions. The Kryvax pride themselves on being the galaxy's foremost military power, Santos mused, watching as more ships emerged into the world's oceans. They've spent centuries conquering other races, incorporating their technologies, assuming that their database of stolen innovations made them invincible. They never considered that someone might be holding back, Chen agreed. That a species might choose to appear less advanced than they were. The facility shuddered slightly as the final and largest ship emerged, the Remembrance. Nearly 30 kilometers long, it had been constructed in sections over 50 years, assembled in a pocket dimension where space could be folded to hide its true size. Its hull bristled with weapons that the galaxy had dismissed as theoretical impossibilities. Its computers ran on quantum systems that the Kryvax thought were centuries away from practical use. Signal from Ambassador Nash, Chen announced. The Galactic Council session went exactly as projected. The Kryvax representative responded with typical arrogance. She's implemented Phase 3. Santos allowed herself a grim smile. For centuries, humanity had seeded seemingly benign communication relays throughout galactic space, officially part of a scientific research network studying stellar phenomena. With a single command, these devices had transformed into quantum disruption fields, isolating every Kryvax military installation from their command and control networks. Prepare for dimensional transition, Santos ordered. All ships will emerge at their designated coordinates simultaneously. The Kryvax are about to learn the difference between stealing technology and truly understanding it. Throughout Earth's oceans, mountains, and secret spaces, humanity's hidden fleet prepared to reveal itself to the galaxy. They had spent centuries building not because they wanted war, but because they wanted to ensure that when war came, it would be the last time anyone dared to threaten their children. The Remembrance's engines began to hum with power that made the ocean itself vibrate in sympathy. Humanity had waited patiently, hidden their strength, and prepared in secret. Now, they would demonstrate why their apparent restraint had never been about weakness, but about ensuring that when they finally acted, it would be with overwhelming force. All ships report ready, Admiral, Chen announced. Dimensional transition coordinates are locked. The Kryvax won't know we're coming until we're already there. Santos took a deep breath, thinking of the children of New Haven. The Kryvax had chosen them as an example of human weakness. Instead, they would become a symbol of why humanity had chosen to hide its strength until it was needed. Initiate transition, she commanded. Let's show the galaxy why patience should never be mistaken for vulnerability. The ocean seemed to fold in on itself as hundreds of ships slipped between the dimensions, leaving behind only ripples in the water and a silence that felt like the calm before a storm. Humanity's response to the Kryvax atrocity was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Awakening Fleet. Supreme Commander Vexthor of the Kryvax Dominion stood aboard his flagship, the Eternal Dominance, watching tactical displays with growing unease. The quantum communication network's failure had been sudden and complete, isolating every military installation from Central Command. His technicians insisted it was impossible. The network had redundancies built upon redundancies. Multiple spatial anomalies detected. His sensor officer shouted, their scales shifting to warning colors. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Space itself seemed to ripple and fold around every major Kryvax military installation simultaneously. Where there had been empty void moments before, massive ships now hung in perfect formation. Their hulls seemed to drink in light, making it difficult for even the Dominion's advanced sensors to maintain a lock. Impossible, Vexthor whispered. They were contained. Primitive. We monitored their system for centuries. The human vessels made no demands, sent no warnings. They simply began to act. The first shot fired in humanity's response to the New Haven massacre wasn't a conventional weapon. It was a focused burst of quantum energy that completely nullified the shields of 3 Kryvax dreadnoughts simultaneously. The ships themselves remained intact, but utterly defenseless. Aboard the human flagship Remembrance, Fleet Commander Sarah Chen watched the battle unfold with clinical precision. Status of the quantum nullification field. Operating at 98% efficiency, her tactical officer reported. Kryvax shields are failing exactly as our simulations predicted. Their stolen technology can't adapt to weapons they never knew existed. The Remembrance's next action demonstrated why humanity had spent centuries perfecting their weapons rather than expanding. A series of precisely targeted graviton beams struck the defenseless Kryvax ships. Instead of destroying them, the beams selectively disabled their weapons and propulsion systems, leaving life support and other critical systems intact. All ships, implement Protocol Mercy, Chen ordered. Disable, don't destroy. Show them the difference between their brutality and our precision. Across dozens of star systems, the pattern repeated. Human ships emerged from dimensional transitions, nullified Kryvax defenses, and systematically disabled their vessels. The few Kryvax ships that managed to fire found their weapons absorbed by the humans' metamaterial hulls, the energy redirected and dissipated harmlessly into subspace. They're attempting to activate their automated defense networks, Chen's XO reported. The quantum virus we seeded through their communication relays is preventing any coordination. Chen nodded, remembering the centuries of patience this moment had required. While the galaxy thought humans were struggling with basic AI development, They had been perfecting quantum computing systems that could outthink and outmaneuver anything the Kryvax had stolen or developed. Message from Deep Cradle, her communications officer announced. Phase 4 is ready for implementation. Proceed, Chen ordered. Throughout Kryvax space, the seemingly dormant research satellites humanity had positioned over the centuries came alive. Each one generated a localized field that prevented faster-than-light travel, trapping Kryvax reinforcements in their home systems. Vexthor watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically reduced to floating hulks. The humans weren't just winning. They were doing so with a precision and efficiency that spoke of centuries of preparation. Each disabled ship represented thousands of warriors who would live to understand how completely they had misunderstood humanity's apparent restraint. Security breach detected in central computer, his systems officer called out. Something is moving through our networks, bypassing every firewall. On every screen aboard every disabled Kryvax vessel, the same message appeared. The children of New Haven were learning about the stars when you killed them. Now you will learn why humanity chose to perfect our capabilities before revealing them. Your empire was built on stolen technology and brute force. Ours was built on patience, innovation, and the determination to ensure that when we finally acted, it would be decisive. The remembrance moved through the disabled Kryvax fleet like a ghost, its presence both beautiful and terrifying. Humanity had spent centuries presenting an image of technological modesty to the galaxy, letting potential adversaries believe they were seeing everything humanity could achieve. The truth was far different. Final status report, Chen commanded. 87% of all Kryvax military assets have been neutralized, her tactical officer reported. Remaining forces are isolated and contained. Civilian casualties, 0. Military casualties, minimal. All disabled vessels have been secured, and their crews are unharmed. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Send word to Ambassador Nash. Phase 4 is complete. The galaxy is about to learn why humanity chose to wait until we could act with both overwhelming force and precise restraint. The battle, if it could even be called that, had demonstrated something the Kryvax and the galaxy at large had failed to understand. Humanity's decision to remain primarily in their home system hadn't been about fear or inability. It had been about ensuring that when they finally revealed their true capabilities, no force in the galaxy could stand against them. And they had done it without becoming the monsters they had prepared to fight. Shattered stars. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Representatives from 100 species watched as Ambassador Lyra Nash's hologram appeared before them once again. Behind her, the vast fleet of human vessels hung in space around what had been the Kryvax capital world, their dark hulls reflecting the light of 3 suns. The military assets of the Kryvax Dominion have been neutralized, Nash announced, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of preparation. Their leadership has been detained, their stolen technologies secured, and their ability to threaten others eliminated. The Council's Prima Speaker, a crystalline being named Zixtal, leaned forward. In less than 1 standard day, you have dismantled an empire that stood for 9 centuries. The galaxy demands to know. What are your intentions? Nash's hologram shifted, showing images from the systematic dismantling of the Kryvax military machine. Not a single civilian casualty. No planetary bombardments. No revenge killings. Just precise, overwhelming force applied with surgical accuracy. Humanity's intentions remain what they have always been, Nash replied. We seek neither empire nor dominion. We desire only what we have always desired, the right of all species to develop without fear of conquest or subjugation. From his holding cell, Supreme Commander Vexthor watched the transmission with his scales dulled in defeat. The humans had not only defeated his forces, they had done so while demonstrating a level of technological advancement that made the Dominion's stolen innovations look primitive by comparison. We never understood, he whispered to the human guard outside his cell. Your isolation, your focus on a single system. We thought we were containing you. You were watching a species that had learned from its own bloody history, the guard replied. We spent centuries fighting among ourselves before we understood that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to know when and how to use power. In the council chamber, Nash continued her address. The Kryvax territories will be returned to their original inhabitants, those species who suffered under generations of occupation. Their stolen technologies will be returned to their rightful creators. But more importantly, we are proposing a new galactic charter. Holographic displays showed a network of the same satellites that had helped humanity disable the Kryvax forces. These devices, which we have positioned throughout galactic space over the centuries, are not merely weapons. They are the foundation of a new defensive network, one that can prevent any species from launching unprovoked attacks against another. The council erupted in murmurs. What Nash was proposing would fundamentally reshape galactic politics. No longer would military might alone determine the fate of civilizations. Humanity will not rule, Nash stated firmly. We will not govern, but we will serve as guardians of a new peace. The technology that allowed us to defeat the Kryvax without widespread destruction will now be used to ensure that no other children have to die because of one species' desire for dominance. Admiral Santos, watching from deep cradle, smiled as she saw the reactions among the council members. The Kryvax had thought they were dealing with a primitive species hiding in its cradle. Instead, they had awakened a civilization that had spent centuries preparing not just to fight, but to build something better in the aftermath. The network is already operational, Nash continued. From this moment forward, any attempt to launch an unprovoked attack against another civilization will result in immediate intervention, not by human forces, but by automated systems that cannot be bribed, threatened, or corrupted. She paused, letting the implications sink in. We hid our true capabilities not out of fear, but because we wanted to be certain that when we finally revealed ourselves, we could offer more than just another empire. We could offer genuine peace. Throughout the galaxy, the victims of Kryvax aggression watched as their oppressors' mighty fleets hung powerless in space, disabled by technology so advanced it seemed like magic. But more importantly, they watched as humanity demonstrated that true power lay not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice to protect. The children of New Haven died learning about the stars, Nash concluded. Their legacy will be a galaxy where children of all species can look to those same stars with hope rather than fear. The age of empires is over. The age of protection begins. As her hologram faded, the council chamber erupted in discussion. The galaxy was changing, transformed not by conquest or destruction, but by the revealed presence of a species that had spent centuries preparing to be not conquerors but guardians. In his cell, Vex Thor finally understood. The humans hadn't been trapped in their home system. They had been perfecting themselves, ensuring that when they finally stepped onto the galactic stage, it would not be as just another empire, but as something entirely new, something that could change everything. Dawn of change. 5 years after the fall of the Kryvax Dominion, a small ship approached the New Haven Memorial. The vessel's dark hull, crafted with the same light-absorbing materials as humanity's warships, seemed to ripple against the backdrop of stars. Inside, Ambassador Lyra Nash stood with a group of visitors, representatives from species that had once lived under Kryvax rule. The memorial itself was a marvel of human engineering. A sphere of pure energy contained within quantum fields, it held within it a perfect recreation of New Haven colony as it had been before the attack. At its center, the school hung suspended in space, its halls forever preserved in crystalline clarity. We could have built something grander, Nash explained to her guests. A monument of steel and stone reaching to the stars. Instead, we chose this, a moment preserved in time, a reminder of why we waited so long to reveal ourselves. The visitors moved through the memorial in silence. Among them was a young Kryvax, their scales showing the pale blue of deep remorse. They were part of the first generation to grow up after their empire's fall, taught not to dominate but to understand. Your species had such power, the young Kryvax said quietly. You could have destroyed us completely. Many would say we deserved it. Nash touched the crystalline barrier separating them from the preserved image of the school. The children who died here were learning about the interconnectedness of all things, about how the same elements that make up their bodies were forged in the hearts of stars. It would have dishonored their memory to respond to death with more death. In the 5 years since humanity had revealed its true capabilities, the galaxy had transformed. The defensive network they had secretly built over centuries now maintained a peace unprecedented in galactic history. Species that had lived in fear of conquest found themselves free to develop at their own pace, protected by technology so advanced it had at first been mistaken for magic. Admiral Santos is arriving, Nash's aide announced quietly. Elena Santos, now Supreme Commander of Earth's Guardian Fleet, entered the memorial chamber. Age had added more silver to her hair, but her eyes remained as sharp as ever. She carried with her a small quantum crystal, its surface twinning with colors. The last of the restoration projects is complete, Santos reported. The world stripped bare by Kryvax mining operations have been rehabilitated. Their biospheres are recovering ahead of schedule. The visitors watched in awe as Santos activated the crystal, projecting images of worlds reborn. Barren planets transformed by human technology, their surfaces once again teeming with life. It was perhaps the greatest testament to humanity's true power, not their ability to destroy, but to restore. Your species continues to surprise us, one of the visitors, a member of the Council's new Guardian Committee, observed. You had the power to conquer the galaxy, yet you choose to heal it instead. Nash smiled. We spent centuries developing our technology, not because we wanted to rule, but because we understood that true power lies in the ability to protect. The children of New Haven died learning about the wonders of the universe. Their legacy lives on in every world we help recover, every species we help protect. The memorial's quantum field shifted, showing images from across the galaxy. The former Kryvax shipyards, now transformed into research centers, where species shared knowledge freely. The automated defense networks, ensuring that no civilization could ever again rise through conquest. And most importantly, schools on 1,000 worlds where children of all species learned together, studying the stars without fear. Some called it the fall of the Kryvax Empire, Santos mused, watching the images. But that wasn't what it was at all. It was the rise of something new. A galaxy where strength is measured not in warships and conquered territories, but in our ability to protect and nurture. As if in response to her words, the memorial's quantum field shimmered, briefly showing the faces of the children who had died at New Haven. But now their images were joined by countless others. Children from across the galaxy, learning and growing in peace, protected by humanity's hidden guardians. We revealed ourselves not to dominate, Nash said softly, but to ensure that no other children would die as these did. And in doing so, we discovered something remarkable. The galaxy was ready for guardians rather than conquerors. The young Kryvax stepped forward, their scales now showing the deep green of hope. You did not just defeat an empire, they said. You showed us a better way to be strong. As the visitors departed, Nash remained in the memorial chamber, watching the eternal moment preserved within. Humanity had emerged from its cradle not with fire and fury, but with the wisdom gained from centuries of preparation. They had waited, hidden their strength, and perfected their capabilities not to rule the galaxy, but to protect it. In the end, that had made all the difference.